The red warning lights on the trading floor came on all at once. Every screen flashed the same message. Model failure. Exposure limit breached. For 1 second, no one moved. Then the room exploded. $300 million in client exposure was moving the wrong way. The risk dashboard bled numbers faster than the engineers could explain them. Behind the glass wall, Chief Executive Officer Claire Bennett watched her best team talk over each other while the company unraveled before lunch. Greg Dalton, the operations manager, shoved past two analysts and pointed at the screen. "Shut it down." "We tried," someone said. "Then try harder." But every command made the numbers worse. That was when the janitor pushed a mop cart into the room. Greg turned on him immediately.
Then try harder.
"Not now. Get out." The man in the gray uniform did not answer.
Not now.
He only looked past Greg,
Not now.
past the flashing screens, toward the whiteboard covered in equations and half-erased assumptions. Then he set down the mop bucket. Claire's breath caught. She knew him. Owen Carter, the man who had once solved problems before professors finished writing them. Before anyone could stop him, Owen picked up a marker and circled one line on the board. Not the longest equation, not the most complicated one, the one everyone had stopped questioning. Then he changed a single symbol. The room went silent, and in 10 seconds, the janitor did what a room full of million-dollar experts could not. He stopped the bleeding. Nobody clapped. For several seconds, no one even breathed loudly. The red numbers on the risk dashboard stopped falling. They froze, flickered, then began to pull back from the danger line.
They're not listening.
A young engineer near the center console
"Pull
whispered
back
something
now."
Claire could not hear, but she saw the meaning on his face. Relief. Not victory, just relief. Owen Carter capped the marker and stepped away from the whiteboard as if he had only corrected a spelling mistake. He did not smile. He checked the screen once, nodded to himself, and reached for the handle of his mop cart. Greg moved first. "What did you just touch?" Owen paused. "The decay assumption."
What did you just touch?
Greg stared at him. "You do not have authorization to be in this room." Maya Chen, one of the younger engineers, leaned closer to the board. Her eyes moved across the line Owen had circled. "He's right," she said. Greg turned on her. "What?" "The model treated the exposure shift like stable correlation,"
What?
Maya said. "But the market movement broke that relationship. His change made the model read the break as signal, not noise." Another engineer pulled the corrected curve onto the main display. The numbers were still bad, but they were no longer bleeding. Claire opened the glass door and stepped onto the trading floor. The room lowered its voice without being told. She looked at Owen. For a moment, the present vanished. She saw a lecture hall from years ago. She saw a quiet student sitting 3 rows ahead of her, listening while everyone else took notes. Then the
I've got the
professor
data
would
right
stop
here. Look,
writing,
they're changing the
because
numbers.
Owen had
Just like
already
before.
found the proof
They're walking away.
that Owen had disappeared before graduation. No farewell, no explanation, just an empty seat. Now he stood inside her company in a gray custodial uniform, with a plastic badge clipped to his chest. Owen Carter, Custodial Services, Night Shift Support. Greg found his voice again. "This is a protocol breach," he said. A cleaning employee entered an active risk response room and altered technical material during an emergency. Maya looked at him in disbelief. "Greg," he stopped the cascade.
protocol
"He wrote
breach,
on
I
a
told
board,"
him.
Greg said.
I
"That does
followed
not make him an
procedure."
engineer." Owen lowered his eyes. Claire noticed it. Not fear. Something older. Something practiced. He had heard that tone before. "Everyone back to
He
work,"
stopped the cascade.
Claire said. "Verify the
He wrote on a
correction.
board.
Save the board. Nobody erases anything." Greg
does
turned
not
to
make
her.
him an engineer.
"Claire, we need to contain this." "We will," Claire said. "By understanding
Everyone
it."
back to work.
She faced Owen. "Can you explain what you changed?" Owen looked at
Verify
the
the
marker in his
correction.
hand. "The model
Save the
assumed the
board.
positions would stay
Nobody
linked during
erases
stress,"
anything.
he said.
B.
But the live movement showed the link had already broken. The old term treated the break as random noise. It was not noise. It was the warning.
The model
Maya
assumed the
nodded
positions
slowly.
would stay
That is
linked
why the
during
shutdown
stress.
commands made
But
it
the
worse.
live movement
Greg
showed
folded
the
his
link had
arms.
already broken.
"And you understood
The
all
old
that by
term
pushing
treated
a
the
mop
break
past a
as random
whiteboard?"
noise.
Owen did not answer
It was
right
not
away.
noise.
"I saw part of the alert
was-
yesterday on
that
a
is why
hallway
the
monitor,"
shutdown
he
commands
said.
made it worse.
"Only for a second.
And you
Today I
understood
saw
all
the
that by
same
pushing a
assumption
mop
written
past
here.
a whiteboard?
You were studying internal monitors?
I saw part of the
I was
alert
emptying
yesterday on a
trash.
hallway
The
monitor.
room became uncomfortable in a different
Only
way.
for a second.
Claire saw several people look away. Owen placed the marker
Today
on the
I saw
ledge.
the same assumption
"I should get
written
back to
here.
work." Claire stared at
studying
him.
internal
"You just
monitors?
stopped a $300 million
emptying trash.
exposure failure." "I know. And your first thought is to finish your shift?"
I should
Owen
get back to
glanced
work.
at the mop bucket. It is
You
still
just
my
stopped a
shift.
$300 million
The sentence
exposure
landed
failure.
harder than he
I
seemed to
know.
intend. Claire
And
asked
your
him to
first
step
thought
into
is
the
to finish
hallway.
your shift?
Greg started to follow. Not you, Claire said. Outside the room,
It is still
the
my
noise
shift.
softened behind the glass. Engineers copied Owen's correction. Maya photographed the whiteboard.
Step into
Greg
the
watched
hallway.
from inside with a face that
Not
had gone
you.
tight. Owen stood beside the mop cart with both hands folded in front of him. That posture bothered Claire, not because it made him look small, because she remembered a time when his mind had filled every room he entered. I saw your application, she said. Owen did not look surprised. I thought you might. Why custodial work? It was open. That is not an answer. It is a true one. I can move you into data analysis today,
I saw
Claire
your
said.
application.
Better pay,
thought you might.
better benefits,
Why
work that
custodial
actually
work?
matches your ability. His
It was
expression
open.
changed at the word
That
ability.
is not an answer.
I need predictable hours,
It is
Owen
a
said.
true one.
Quiet
I
work,
can move you
clear
into data
tasks, no
analysis
pressure,
today.
no politics.
Better pay.
You are overqualified.
Better benefits.
Maybe. He looked
Work
through the
that
glass
actually
at the
matches your
whiteboard.
ability.
Being
I
qualified
need
does not
predictable
always mean you
hours,
belong somewhere.
quiet work,
Claire had
clear
no quick
tasks,
answer.
no pressure,
Inside the
no
room,
politics.
Greg
You
kept
are
watching them.
overqualified.
This janitor was no longer invisible. That made him dangerous to someone. Owen, Claire said, softer now. People like you do not just disappear. He gave a small, tired smile. People disappear all the time. Usually they just stop being useful to the right people. The words were calm. That made them worse.
People like you
You
do
remember
not
me,
just disappear.
Claire said. Of course. Then
People
tell me what
disappear all
happened
the
after
time.
school. His hand moved toward the cart handle. Life happened. That is not an answer either. It is the only one I give at work.
You remember me.
Before
Of
Claire
course.
could push again,
Then tell
the
me what
crisis
happened
room
after
door
school.
opened.
Life
Maya
happened.
stepped out with a tablet pressed to her chest.
That is not an answer
The correction
either.
is holding, she said. We are still exposed, but the cascade stopped. We need a deeper review. Whoever approved the failsafe missed the stress decay. Greg
The
appeared
correction is
behind her.
holding.
Or someone got lucky, he said. No one laughed. Owen
are
picked up
still
the mop
exposed.
bucket. Claire watched him turn toward the service corridor. He did not look back at the room he had just saved. At the corner, he stopped, only to straighten a yellow caution sign kicked aside during the panic. Then he kept walking. As he passed under the hallway light, Claire noticed something in the pocket of his uniform. A small black notebook. Its cover was bent. Folded pages stuck out, marked with tiny symbols and numbers. Not cleaning schedules. Not supply lists. Equation. Owen pushed through the service door and disappeared. Claire stood there, long after it closed. Behind her, the company was still alive. But now she understood something more disturbing than the model failure. The most valuable mind in the building had been pushing a mop cart, and everyone had let him keep walking past the door. By noon, the trading floor looked almost normal again. The alarms were off. The screens had returned to their usual colors. Engineers sat at their desks with coffee cups beside their keyboards, speaking in low voices, as if volume alone could bring the crisis back. But Claire Bennett knew the room was lying to itself. A system that had almost lost $300 million before lunch did not become safe because the lights stopped flashing. It became more dangerous when people decided the worst part was over. In the executive conference room, Claire stood at the head of the table while Maya Chen replayed the incident on the main screen. The company was called Bennett Meridian Analytics. It did not move money directly. That was what the brochures said. It measured risk for the people who moved money. Pension funds, private wealth offices, 2 regional banks, 3 hedge funds that never liked to be named in public. Its promise was simple. See danger before the market sees it. That promise had almost failed. Maya pointed to a curve on the screen. At 11:23 in the morning, the risk model began showing abnormal movement across 4 client portfolios. The failsafe should have reduced exposure automatically. Instead, it amplified the position. One board member rubbed his forehead. Explain that in plain English. The system saw a fire, Maya said, and poured gasoline on it. No one spoke for a moment. Greg Dalton sat halfway down the table with a folder in front of him and a pen he had not used. His suit was perfect. His voice, when he finally spoke, was calm enough to sound rehearsed. The important point is that the exposure was contained. Claire looked at him. Contained by whom? Greg did not turn his head toward her right away. By emergency intervention. By Owen Carter, Maya said. Greg gave her a thin smile. By an unapproved intervention from a custodial employee. Maya's jaw tightened. Claire lifted one hand before the argument could start. Keep going. Maya changed the slide. The whiteboard photograph appeared. The line Owen had circled was still visible. So was the single symbol he had changed. This is the assumption he corrected, Maya said. The model was treating correlation decay as gradual, but under stress, the relationship between those positions broke instantly. The algorithm kept waiting for a slow drift. It should have recognized a clean break. Claire studied the image. She understood enough to know the danger was not only mathematical. Models were built by people, approved by people, monitored by people. If a bad assumption had survived long enough to reach a live client environment, then someone had missed it, ignored it, or wanted it there. Greg leaned forward. Or, he said, we had a rare market condition that exposed a weakness. We patch the weakness. We update the documentation. We move on. That sounds fast, Claire said. It sounds responsible. It sounds convenient. His face changed only slightly. One of the board members, Martin Vale, cleared his throat. Claire, the market opens again tomorrow. Clients will call before close of business. We need a message. They deserve the truth. They deserve confidence, Greg said. Claire looked at him again. Those are not always the same thing. The room went quiet. Maya clicked to the next screen. This is where it gets strange. A timeline appeared. Colored bars showed system alerts, shutdown commands, and override attempts. At 11:17, the dashboard issued the first soft warning. At 11:19, the warning cleared. At 11:23, the failure began. But there is no clean explanation for why the warning disappeared. Could it have auto-cleared? Martin asked. Not under our current rules, Maya said. Greg looked down at his folder. Rules are not perfect. That is why operations exists. Claire heard the sentence the way she heard bad music in an expensive restaurant. Too smooth, too certain, too ready. What does the log say? She asked. Maya hesitated. The preliminary execution log has a gap. How large? 11 minutes. Claire did not move. 11 minutes was a small number, until it sat in the middle of a disaster. Greg closed his folder. That is not unusual during emergency load. We have seen delayed logging before. Maya shook her head. Delayed logging leaves late entries. This is different. The sequence jumps. Greg's voice sharpened. Maya, you are making conclusions from incomplete data. No, she said. I am saying the data is incomplete. Claire looked from Maya to Greg. There it was. The first crack. Not proof. Not yet. But a crack. She ended the meeting without letting Greg close the incident report. She ordered a full internal audit, a preserved copy of every whiteboard photograph, every execution log, every model version, and every access record from the past 30 days. Greg objected twice. Both times, Claire ignored him. When the room emptied, Martin stayed behind. You need to be careful, he said. I know. A story about a model flaw is bad. A story about a janitor saving the model is worse. It makes the company look unserious. Claire looked through the conference room glass toward the far hallway. Owen was there, barely visible through the movement of employees. He was pushing his cart past the elevators, stopping only when someone stepped into his path without seeing him. No, Claire said. It makes the company look blind. Martin Sahil. That distinction will not comfort investors. Maybe it should concern them. He left her with that. By late afternoon, the trading floor had changed its language. People no longer said Owen's name loudly. They said the janitor, the cleaning guy, that man from the crisis room. Some said it with curiosity. Some said it with embarrassment. Greg said it like a stain. Owen did not seem to notice. He returned to the service corridor, signed the incident sheet for spilled coffee near conference room 4, and spent 40 minutes reorganizing a supply closet that had irritated the night staff for months. Claire watched him from the open doorway. He had removed every box from the metal shelves and placed them in rows on the floor. Gloves, toner, paper towels, trash liners, replacement batteries, floor pads, emergency wipes. Each category had its own shelf. Each shelf had a handwritten label. On the inside of the door, he had taped a small chart showing what ran out fastest and what had been over-ordered for 6 months. A facilities supervisor stood beside Claire, looking both grateful and confused. I have been asking operations for a clean inventory system since January, the supervisor said. He fixed it before dinner. Owen heard them and turned. I did not fix it, he said. I just made the pattern visible. The words stayed with Claire. That was what he had done in the crisis room too. He had not created a miracle. He had made the pattern visible. Greg appeared at the end of the corridor. His eyes moved from Claire to the newly labeled shelves, then to Owen. How nice, he said. Now perhaps everyone can return to the work they were hired to do. Owen lowered his gaze. Greg, she said, the audit stays open. His smile was polite. Of course. But as he walked away, Claire saw his hand tighten around the folder under his arm. For the first time that day, she understood the model failure might not be the real problem. It might only be the first thing Owen had noticed. At 6 in the evening, Claire found Owen in the basement service room, washing marker dust from his fingers. The sink was shallow. The light above it buzzed. A row of gray uniforms hung from metal hooks along the wall. Owen looked up through the mirror. If this is about the board, he said, I already told the facility supervisor I did not touch any system. Claire stood in the doorway. It is not about the board. Then it is about Greg. It is about the model. Owen dried his hands with a paper towel and dropped it into the bin. I changed one symbol on a whiteboard. You also saw the right symbol. That does not make me an employee of your engineering team. No, Claire said, but it makes you the only person in this building who saw what they missed. He turned toward her then. The room was quiet except for the pipe behind the wall. Claire held up a folder. No login, no terminal, no access badge beyond what you already have. Printed pages only. Maya can ask questions. You can answer or not answer. Owen looked at the folder as if it might burn him. Greg approved this? Greg objected. That is not the same thing. No, Claire said. It is not. For a moment, Owen said nothing. Then he reached for his jacket from the hook. I have 20 minutes before my bus. Claire almost said she would call a car. She stopped herself. Something told her that would end the conversation before it began. They met in a small review room 2 floors above the trading floor. Not the main conference room, not the glass crisis room. A plain room with one oval table, one wall screen, and a printer that clicked every few seconds. Maya had already spread the pages into 3 piles. Model outputs. Execution records. Alert history. Greg stood by the window with his arms folded. This is highly irregular, he said. Owen took the chair farthest from him. So is losing $300 million in the wrong direction. Maya looked down quickly, hiding the smallest smile. Greg did not. Claire sat at the end of the table. Owen is here as an observer, she said. No system access, no decision authority. We are asking him to explain the correction he made and whether the logs support a deeper review. Greg tapped the table once. Then let the record show that operations considers this informal and non-authoritative. Owen glanced at the printed pages. You want the record before the truth. Greg's face hardened. Claire leaned forward before he could answer. Owen, the pages. He nodded once. Maya pushed the first stack toward him. Owen did not read like the others read. He did not skim from top to bottom. His eyes moved between columns, then back to the timestamps, then to the margins where Maya had written notes. Once, he turned a page sideways and held 2 sheets beside each other. What are you looking for? Maya asked. The shape of the mistake. Greg exhaled. A mistake does not have a shape. Owen kept reading. Mos do. He pulled 1 page from the alert history and placed it next to an execution record. Here, the soft warning appears at 11:17. It clears at 11:19. Then the exposure failure begins at 11:23. But the position reduction command at 11:24 behaves as if the warning never happened. Maya leaned over the table. That should be impossible. Not impossible, Owen said. Just not natural. Claire felt the word settle. Natural. It was the kind of word that changed a room. Maya pointed to a line. The alert could have been suppressed by an automated rule. Owen shook his head. An automated rule leaves a reason code, Greg said. Unless the reason code failed to write under load. Owen looked at him for the first time. Then the next process would still reference it. He placed another page beside the first 2. It does not. Greg's jaw moved once. Owen continued. The model did not forget the warning. Someone made the warning irrelevant. After that, the shutdown command was using a stale risk state. Maya whispered. That is why every command made it worse. Yes. Claire kept her eyes on Owen. How certain are you? Certain enough to stop using the current failsafe until you replay the morning in a sandbox. Maya was already writing. We can run a sandbox replay tonight. Greg stepped away from the window. No, we cannot. We cannot freeze a client. Facing fail. Safe, because a janitor looked at paper. Owen folded his hands. You should not freeze it because I looked at paper. You should freeze it because your own paper says it lied. Greg turned to Claire. This is exactly the problem. He is using dramatic language without accountability. Claire felt the pressure immediately. Clients would call. The board wanted confidence. Legal would want careful phrases. Greg wanted the incident small, technical, and closed. Owen wanted the dangerous thing. Accuracy. Run the replay, Claire said. Greg's voice dropped. If we do that, the audit expands. Yes. If the audit expands, the board will ask why. Then we will answer. And if clients hear that we suspended part of the failsafe? Claire looked at the pages. Then we will tell them we found a weakness and corrected it before market open. Owen's chair moved softly as he stood. That is not enough. Claire looked up. It is a start. It is a patch. It protects the company tonight. It protects the story tonight, Owen said. Maya stopped writing. Greg smiled without warmth. There it is. Claire raised a hand. But Owen did not raise his voice. If an alert was suppressed, then the model is not the only problem. Someone had a reason to ignore the first warning. If you patch the math and leave the reason alive, the next failure will be cleaner. Claire knew he was right. She also knew the cost of saying that out loud. Owen, she said carefully, there is a way to investigate without setting fire to the building. His eyes changed. Not anger. Recognition. I have heard that before. The room felt smaller. Claire regretted the sentence, but not enough to withdraw it. Not yet. I am asking for time, and I am telling you what time does to evidence. Greg cut in. Evidence is a legal word. He should be careful using it. Owen looked back at the papers. You are right. For 1 second. Greg seemed pleased. Then Owen picked up the alert history. So let us call it what it is. A missing reason code, a stale risk state, a shutdown command acting on a false assumption, and an 11-minute hole where the system should have remembered why it was afraid. No one moved. Maya's eyes widened. That line, she said, pointing. The acknowledgement field. I thought it was blank. Owen slid the page toward her. It is not blank. It is masked in the printout. The field width is too small. Maya rushed to the printer and grabbed the full export Greg had refused to display on the wall. She unfolded the wide page. The room seemed to hold its breath. There, at the edge of the alert record, cut off in the normal report, was a partial operator tag. OPS-17. Maya looked at Greg. That is an operations terminal. Greg's expression did not change. Many people use operations terminals. Owen stood slowly. Then you should find out who used that one. Claire looked at the tag. OPS-17. It was not a confession. It was not enough to accuse anyone. But it was the first hard mark on the wall. Owen gathered the pages into neat piles. My bus leaves in 4 minutes. Claire almost asked him to stay. Instead, she said, Thank you. He paused at the door. Do not thank me yet. Why? He looked once at Greg, then back at Claire. Because if I am right, tomorrow everyone will wish I had stayed invisible. Then he left the room, and the printer kept clicking behind him. The next morning, Claire did not begin with Greg. She began with an old university archive. At 7 in the morning, before the first board call, she sat alone in her office with a password reset email from Westbridge University and a cup of coffee she had forgotten to drink. The archive loaded slowly. Names appeared in gray rows. Faculty, graduate candidates, scholarship nominees. Then she found him. Owen Daniel Carter. Applied mathematics. Highest distinction. Faculty recommendation pending. Doctoral fellowship selected. Claire leaned closer. Selected. Not rejected. Not wait-listed. Selected. Beside his name was a scanned note from Professor Elaine Harper, the same professor Claire remembered from the lecture hall. The note was short, formal, and full of restraint. Owen Carter possessed rare structural intuition. He could see the shape of a problem before others could name its parts. Claire read that sentence twice. Then she opened the final record. Withdrawal before enrollment. Reason not listed. No forwarding academic address. No later publication record. The future had stopped there. By 8:30, Claire had asked an assistant to locate Professor Harper. By 9:15, she had the retired professor on a video call from a kitchen bright with morning sun. At first, Harper smiled politely. Then Claire said Owen's name. The smile faded. I wondered where he went, Harper said. You did not know? No. He called me once. Said his mother was ill and his father had taken a fall. He said he needed 1 semester away. 1 semester, Claire repeated. That was what he said. But caregiving has a way of eating calendars. Claire looked down at the archived file. He never came back. No. Harper said. And after 2 years, letters expire. Funding moves. People who promise to wait. Stop waiting. The professor paused. Owen was not fragile, Miss Bennet. Do not make that mistake. He was tired. There is a difference. The call ended with no dramatic revelation. That made it worse. There had been no scandal in the beginning. No failure. No grand fall. Only a son going home because two sick people needed him more than a university did. Claire spent the rest of the morning in meetings she barely heard. Greg reported that the audit was ongoing. Legal advised careful language. Martin Vale repeated the word confidence 4 times. But all Claire could see was the phrase selected for doctoral fellowship, sitting beside withdrawal before enrollment. At lunch, she went down to the loading dock. She found Owen behind the building, sitting on a low concrete wall with a paper bag beside him. The city moved above them in layers. Delivery trucks, elevator motors, distant horns. Somewhere inside, the company was preparing statements about controlled risk and operational resilience. Owen was eating an apple with a small folding knife. You missed the bus last night, Claire said. I caught the next one. There was another? After 40 minutes. She sat at the other end of the wall, leaving space between them. I spoke to Professor Harper. Owen stopped cutting the apple. For the first time since she had found him again, something raw crossed his face. Then it vanished. She is alive? Yes. I am glad. She remembered you. That is kind of her. She said you were selected for the doctoral fellowship. Owen looked toward the delivery gate. I was. You never told anyone here. No one asked. I am asking now. He put the knife away with care. My mother needed help getting to dialysis. My father could not stand without falling. I thought I could leave school for 1 semester, work nights, manage their appointments, and return when things stabilized. Did they? No. The answer was quiet. Claire waited. Owen picked up the apple slice but did not eat it. After my mother died, my father got worse. After my father died, I had debt, no publications, no current letters, and a resume that looked like a long, empty hallway. I took temp work, night work, inventory work, anything that paid on time. You could have called someone. I did. Claire turned to him. He gave a small shrug. Most people were sympathetic. Sympathy is not a job. The words had no bitterness. That was what made them difficult. He continued. A few years later, I got hired as a junior model reviewer at a risk firm. Not glamorous, but it was close enough to the work. I thought I had found my way back. What happened? Owen's hand closed around the paper bag. There was a credit model. It looked stable because the test window was too clean. I flagged it. Twice. My manager said I was overreacting. Then the model failed in a live portfolio. Claire felt the shape of the story before he finished it. They blamed you. They blamed the person whose name was easiest to move. What did the report say? His mouth tightened. Failure to follow protocol. Behavioral concern. Poor collaboration during review. Claire looked away. The same words Greg had started to use. Was any of it true? I was tired, Owen said. I was blunt. I did not know how to make powerful people comfortable while telling them they were wrong. So they used my tone to bury the warning. A truck beeped as it backed into the dock. The sound gave Claire time to think. That is why you did not want the analyst role. That is one reason. And the other? He looked at the upper floors of Bennett Meridian. Rooms like yours have rules before they have facts. I can clean a room without being asked to pretend the floor is dry. Claire absorbed the sentence. It was not an insult. It was worse. It was accurate. I do not want that to happen here, she said. Owen looked at her then. Wanting is easy. Claire had no defense. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he reached into the paper bag and took out a folded page. It was not from the company. It was a photocopy of an old medication schedule, covered with tiny notes in the margins. Times, dosages, blood pressure readings. Next to them were small equations, written wherever space remained. I did not stop thinking, he said. I just stopped having a place where thinking counted. Claire looked at the page. The handwriting was precise. A life squeezed between medicine times. I am sorry, she said. Owen folded the page again. I am not asking you to be sorry. What are you asking? He stood and brushed a crumb from his sleeve. If your audit finds something ugly, do not make me the inspiring story that helps everyone avoid looking at it. Then he walked back inside through the loading dock door. Claire stayed on the concrete wall. Above her, Bennett Meridian's glass tower reflected the sky perfectly. From the outside, nothing looked broken. That was the problem. The audit did not begin inside the main system. Owen refused that immediately. No login, no borrowed badge, no terminal left open by a friendly engineer. If he touched a live system, Greg would have the word he wanted by sunset. Violation. So Claire gave him what she could give without giving Greg an easy weapon. Printed exports, meeting packets, shift schedules, version notes, recycled pages recovered from locked disposal bins before shredding. It was not enough. Owen seemed almost relieved by that. He worked better when the missing pieces showed their edges. They set him up in an unused training room on the 3rd floor. It had no glass wall and no executive table. Just a dry marker board, 6 chairs, and a clock that ticked too loudly in the corner. Maya arrived with 2 cardboard boxes. Everything from the last 30 days, she said. Sanitized copies only. No client names. Owen nodded. Good. You do not want the full files? I want no one to say I had them. Claire stood near the door. The answer was for her as much as it was for Maya. Owen began with the pages nobody else wanted. Printer headers, footer codes, export times, the small gray text people ignored because it did not look like the data. By mid-morning, the table looked like a paper storm. Owen had arranged the sheets into long rows, alert history on the left, model outputs in the middle, operation schedules on the right. Maya watched him draw thin lines between timestamps. You are not matching the failures, she said. No. Then what are you matching? The moments before someone decided the failures did not count. Maya went very still. Owen tapped one page with the back of his pen. Here, temporary override, 9:40, 1 in the morning, last Tuesday. It softened a warning before the client packet was generated. Maya frowned. That override was marked routine. By whom? She checked the footer. Operations review. Owen moved another sheet beside it. Thursday, 10:16. Same override type. Different portfolio. Warning clears. Board packet prints 7 minutes later. Claire looked at the pages. The pattern was small. Almost boring. That made it frightening. How many? She asked. Owen did not look up. 6 in 30 days. Maya whispered. That is not a patch. No, Owen said. It is a habit. Claire felt the sentence strike harder than an accusation. A habit meant repetition. Repetition meant someone trusted it. Maya opened her laptop, then stopped herself and looked at Owen. Sorry. For what? I almost offered to pull the full version record. Owen gave a faint smile. I would like that very much. Which is why you should not do it. Claire heard the restraint in his voice. Not weakness. Discipline. She called legal and asked for a controlled document request. Legal asked if the request was necessary. Claire said yes. They asked if Greg had signed off. Claire said he would be informed. That was when the second friction point appeared. Owen looked up from the table. Informed after the request? Yes. That means he will know what you are looking for before you know what you found. Claire closed the door before answering. We cannot run an audit by ambush. You also cannot investigate a locked room by handing the key holder a schedule. I am trying to keep this admissible, and I am trying to keep it alive. The words hung there. Maya pretended to read a page. Claire lowered her voice. Owen, I have to protect the company. He met her eyes. From the truth, or with it? Claire had been challenged by investors, regulators, founders, and men who use politeness like a knife. Still, that question landed differently, because Owen did not sound angry. He sounded tired of watching powerful people call delay a process. I am giving you what I can, she said. No, Owen said. You are giving me what does not force you to choose yet. Maya looked up then. Claire almost answered sharply. Instead, she looked at the rows of paper. Keep going. Owen did. By late afternoon, legal released a limited version comparison. Maya brought it in a sealed envelope, even though everyone in the room knew paper could not stay sealed once truth needed air. The document showed 3 model versions: live operating model, backup replay model, board reporting model. At first, they looked consistent. The summary pages matched. The risk color bands matched. The client exposure categories matched. Then Owen turned to the footer. There was a model version hash printed in tiny letters beneath each export. A long string of numbers and letters. Maya leaned over his shoulder. That is only an identifier. Owen placed 2 sheets side by side. It should be the same identifier. It is close. Close is a word for horseshoes, Owen said. Not model governance. Maya checked again. The operating model ended in K49. The board reporting model ended in K4B. One character different. A single character. Small enough to miss. Large enough to matter. Claire felt the room tighten. "What does that mean?" she asked. Maya answered before Owen could. "It means the board was not always seeing the exact model that ran live." Owen picked up a third page. "Not always," he said. "Only after overrides." Claire looked at the sheets. The air in the room seemed thinner. "You are saying the board model was cleaner. I am saying it was different." Maya's voice was low. It made the risk look lower. Owen nodded once. "There." He pointed to a column. In the live model, the position showed yellow. In the board packet, it showed green. Not red. Not dangerous. Just green enough that no one would ask a second question. Claire closed her eyes for 1 second. She remembered Martin Vale asking for confidence. She remembered Greg saying they should patch, document, and move on. Confidence was easy to manufacture if the warning light was painted green. The training room door opened without a knock. Greg Dalton stood there. His gaze moved across the paper rows, the version sheets, the marked timestamps, then settled on Maya. Where did those come from? Maya stood. Legal released a limited comparison. To whom? To the audit. Greg smiled. It was not large. That made it colder. The audit is not a person, Maya. Claire stepped forward. They came to me. Greg looked at her. Then I assume legal knows these materials are being reviewed by someone outside the technical chain. Owen began stacking the pages quietly. Greg noticed. No need to hide them, Mr. Carter. Owen did not look up. I'm keeping them in order. You are very good at touching things that are not yours. Claire's voice cut through the room. Enough. Greg gave a small nod. Of course. I only want to make sure Miss Chen understands the seriousness of distributing model records. Maya's face lost color. I followed the request. People often do, right before they regret not asking who benefits. Owen stopped stacking. Claire saw it. The words had found him. Not because Greg had insulted Maya. Because he had named the old trap. Make the helper look careless. Make the warning look personal. Make the truth look like ambition. Claire walked to the table and placed her hand on the version sheet. No one in this room is outside the audit because I opened the audit. Greg held her gaze, for now. Then he turned and left. The door closed softly. Softly was worse than a slam. Maya sat down. He's going to come after me. Owen looked at the printed hash again. No, he said. Claire turned to him. He is going to come after anyone who makes the pattern visible. He picked up the board reporting model and placed it beside the live operating model. 2 sheets. 1 character apart. 1 company apart. This is no longer about a bad assumption, Owen said. Claire looked at the tiny mismatch. K49. K4B. Almost nothing. Almost everything. Outside the room, the office moved as if tomorrow would be ordinary. Inside the room, the truth had changed shape. The company had not just missed a warning. Someone had learned how to make a warning look safe. By the next morning, Greg Dalton had stopped trying to close the audit quietly. He changed tactics. At 9 in the morning, he called a governance review. The invitation went to Claire, Martin Vale, legal, compliance, 2 senior engineers, Maya Chen, and 3 board members who rarely joined anything unless the damage had already become expensive. Owen was not invited. That was the first message. Claire understood it as soon as she entered the conference room and saw the seating chart on the screen. Every name had a title beside it. Chief Executive Officer, Board Director, Head of Legal, Senior Systems Engineer, Compliance Counsel, Operations Manager. Beside Owen Carter, there was no title. Only one phrase. Custodial Employee. Claire looked at Greg. He looked back with the mild expression of a man pretending he had made a clerical choice. We should be precise, he said. Martin Vale shifted in his chair. Where is Mr. Carter? Greg opened his folder. On duty, I assume. Maya's face tightened. Claire remained standing. Owen should be here. Greg adjusted 1 sheet of paper. With respect, Claire, this is a governance review, not a talent discovery meeting. The sentence landed exactly where he wanted it to land. Around the table, people looked down at their packets. No one wanted to defend the janitor too quickly. No one wanted to sound unserious. Greg began with a calm summary. He described the incident as an emergency stabilization, complicated by unauthorized participation from a non-technical employee. He praised the engineering team for its response. He mentioned Maya only once. He did not mention the model hash mismatch until slide 8, where he called it a reporting variance. Maya leaned toward the table microphone. It was not just a reporting variance. Greg did not look at her. That is one interpretation. It is the data. It is a partial comparison made under pressure by people who may not understand the operational context. Claire heard the shape of the attack. Not direct, not loud, soft enough to seem reasonable, sharp enough to cut. Greg clicked to the next slide. A photograph of the training room appeared. Paper covered the table. Owen's handwritten marks circled timestamps and footer codes. This, Greg said, is the concern. Maya stared at the screen. You photographed the room? Security photographed an unsecured document environment. Claire turned to him. You ordered security to photograph an audit room? I asked security to document a risk. He clicked again. A close-up showed Owen's hands over printed model records. Greg, let the image stay on screen for a moment too long. We have allowed a cleaning employee, with no current technical credential, no compliance training, and no active clearance, to handle sensitive operational material. Claire felt the board members shift. There it was. The first attack in full. Not Owen was wrong. Not Owen Leet. Owen was beneath the room. Maya spoke through her teeth. He was reviewing sanitized copies. Greg nodded. Copies of what? Model records. Exactly. Then he looked at Claire. This company cannot build governance around a man because he made one useful observation during a crisis. Claire said, he made several. Then hire him properly. Background check him. Train him. Put him through the same controls as everyone else. But do not give him moral authority because the story feels good. The room quieted. That was Greg's skill. He could hide contempt inside procedure. Claire was about to respond when the conference room door opened. Owen stood there in his gray uniform with a sealed envelope in one hand. Everyone turned. For a second, the room looked embarrassed by its own table. Owen held up the envelope. Facilities asked me to bring the projector cable. No one answered. He saw his name on the screen. Custodial employee. His face did not change. That made Claire angry on his behalf. But Owen only walked to the side cabinet, replaced the cable, and turned to leave. Greg smiled. Since you are here, Mr. Carter, perhaps you can answer a question. Owen stopped. Claire said, Greg. It is simple, Greg said. Do you have any current certification in model governance? No. Any active license related to financial risk? No. Any employment history in a senior quantitative role? No. Greg looked around the table. Thank you. Owen's hand remained on the door handle. Then he turned back. Would you like to ask whether the model hash matched? Greg's smile thinned. That is not the question before this committee. It should be. Martin Vale looked up. What is he referring to? Claire answered before Greg could. The live operating model and board reporting model do not always match after temporary overrides. Martin looked at Greg. Greg lifted another folder. And that brings us to the second concern. The screen changed. This time, Owen's old employment record appeared. Claire felt her stomach drop. She had not authorized that. Owen went very still. Greg's voice remained polite. Mr. Carter was previously employed by Halden Risk Systems as a junior model reviewer. His file was marked after an internal failure involving a credit model. Maya whispered, You have to be kidding, Greg continued. The record includes phrases that should concern us. Failure to follow protocol. Behavioral concern. Poor collaboration during review. He paused. I am not saying Mr. Carter caused our incident. I am saying we should be careful about building our response around someone with a documented history of conflict in model environments. Owen looked at the screen. Not at Greg. Not at Claire. At the words. Claire had seen those words hurt him on the loading dock. Here, under conference room lights, they looked cleaner, more official. More cruel. Legal counsel cleared her throat. How was this record obtained? Greg replied smoothly. Through a standard external risk inquiry after an unusual incident involving sensitive material. Claire looked at him. You investigated him without telling me. I investigated a risk to the company. Owen gave a quiet laugh. It had no humor in it. There it is. Greg turned. Excuse me? Owen pointed at the screen. That is how it works. First, the warning is inconvenient. Then the person carrying it becomes the risk. The room went silent. Greg closed his folder with care. This is not personal. It never is, Owen said. That is why it works so well. Claire wanted to speak, but she hesitated. Only for a second. A board member saw it. Greg saw it. Owen saw it too. That 1 second changed the air. Claire hated herself for it. But the calculation had arrived before her conscience could stop it. If she defended Owen too hard, the board would think she was emotionally compromised. If she ignored the old file, she would look reckless. If she slowed down, Greg would own the story. Owen stepped back from the door. "You should finish your review," he said. Claire said his name. He looked at her, not angry. Worse, disappointed without surprise. Then he left. Maya stood. "That file does not prove he was wrong," Greg said. "It proves he has a pattern." "No," Maya snapped. "It proves people like you know which words ruin a person." Claire looked at the screen again. Custodial employee. Failure to follow protocol. Behavioral concern. Poor collaboration. 2 attacks. One on his place in the building. One on his right to be believed. Greg had not disproved a single timestamp. He had not explained the missing reason code. He had not explained the model hash. But the room had changed anyway. That was the power of a file. It could make truth wait outside while reputation took a seat at the table. Claire closed the packet in front of her. "The audit continues," she said. Greg tilted his head. "With Mr. Carter involved?" Claire looked at the door Owen had closed behind him. Then she looked back at Greg. "Yes." The word cost her something, but not enough. "Not yet." Greg smiled as if he had expected that answer. "Then I recommend legal prepare for escalation." Outside the glass wall, Owen crossed the hallway alone. For the first time since the crisis, he did not look invisible. He looked marked. Claire found Owen in the freight elevator lobby just after 3 in the afternoon. He was alone. The service elevator was open behind him, but he had not stepped inside. His mop cart stood beside the wall, still and orderly, with every bottle facing the same direction. For a moment, Claire did not speak. Owen looked at the elevator numbers above the door. "You should be in the review," he said. "I paused it. That will make Greg happy. Nothing I do today will make Greg happy." Owen gave a tired half-smile. "That may be the first safe decision you have made." Claire accepted the cut because it was deserved. "I need to talk to you." "You did." "No. I let Greg talk about you. That is different." He turned then. His face was calm, but the calm had a wall behind it. Claire had spoken to hostile investors with softer eyes than his. "I should have stopped him before the file went up," she said. "Yes." The word was not angry. That made it worse. "I hesitated," she said. "Yes. I was calculating." "I know." Claire swallowed. Outside the lobby, office traffic passed in polished shoes and security badges. People glanced at them, then looked away. The chief executive officer and the janitor. A scene nobody wanted to be caught understanding. Claire lowered her voice. "I'm still going to keep the audit open. That is good. But the board is worried. Legal is worried. Clients are already asking questions. There is a way to protect the investigation without letting Greg make you the center of a governance fight." Owen looked at the mop cart. "There it is." "What?" "The softer room." Claire frowned. "I do not know what that means." "It means the hard thing happened in public. Now the soft version comes in private." She felt the sentence land before she understood it. "I'm not trying to silence you." "Then do not ask me to become easier to manage." Claire took the envelope from under her arm. Owen looked at it but did not reach for it. "It is a statement," she said. "Not a confession. Not an admission. A controlled statement. It says your involvement was informal, limited, and accidental. It says the company appreciates your assistance, but the internal audit will proceed through authorized teams." Owen stared at the envelope. "And in exchange? A bonus. A formal transfer offer. Data analysis, if you want it. Or model review after training. Full benefits. A clean title. A real salary." The elevator doors began to close. Neither of them moved. The doors opened again with a soft mechanical sigh. Owen said, "You want to buy the shape of the story?" "No. I want to keep you from being destroyed by it." "That sounds kind." "It is true. Both can be true." Claire felt her patience strain. "You think I do not understand what Greg is doing? I think you understand it very well. Then why are you making me your enemy?" Owen looked at her fully. "Because you are asking me to help you keep him comfortable." The words hit harder than shouting. "I am trying to keep this company alive. So was my old manager. That is unfair." "Yes," Owen said. "It is." For the first time, his voice changed. Not louder, sharper. "It is unfair to you because you are not him. It is unfair to me because this is exactly how it begins. A document that sounds reasonable. A title that sounds generous. A sentence that says the warning mattered, but the person who gave it should step back." Claire looked down at the envelope. The language in it suddenly felt heavier. Informal. Limited. Accidental. Safe words. Small cages. She said, "If you refuse, Greg will escalate. He already has. He may push for suspension. I know. He may push legal to treat the printed records as mishandled material. I know. He may go after Maya." That moved him. Only slightly. But enough. Claire saw it. "I can protect her better if this stays controlled." Owen closed his eyes for 1 second. When he opened them, the tiredness was deeper. That is the cleanest trap. It is not a trap. It always arrives with someone else's safety attached. Claire had no answer. Owen pointed to the envelope. "If I sign that, Greg gets what he needs. The company says, 'Thank you, Owen Carter.' Then it says, 'Please stand over there while real employees handle the truth.'" No. Yes. I would never phrase it that way. You would not have to. The paper would do it for you. The lobby went quiet. A custodian from the day crew appeared around the corner, saw them, and immediately turned back the way he came. Owen noticed. Claire did too. That small retreat embarrassed her more than Greg's open contempt. This was what power did to hallways. It taught people where not to stand. Claire slid the envelope back under her arm. "What do you want from me?" Owen gave a short breath that was almost a laugh. That question always sounds generous from someone with a building. "Answer it anyway. I want the audit open properly. I want the model versions preserved before operations can replace them. I want Maya's name kept out of any disciplinary record. I want the board to see the live model and the reporting model side by side. And I want you to stop calling damage control leadership." Claire stiffened. "That is not fair." "No," he said. "It is accurate." Her voice cooled. "You do not know what it is like to carry payroll, clients, contracts, lawsuits, and 300 employees who did nothing wrong." Owen nodded. "You are right. I do not." That should have felt like a victory. It did not. He continued, "But I know what it is like to be the employee who did nothing wrong." Claire looked away. For several seconds, all she heard was the elevator motor moving somewhere behind the wall. Then Owen reached for the mop cart. "I need to finish the 4th floor." "Owen." He stopped, but did not turn. "If I sign a paper that makes truth smaller, I become useful again in the way powerful rooms like. Quiet, grateful, contained." Claire said nothing. He finally looked back. "You asked why I chose custodial work. This is why. A dirty floor does not ask me to lie about how it got dirty." He pushed the cart toward the corridor. The wheels made a soft, uneven sound over the tile. Claire stayed in the freight lobby, with the unsigned statement under her arm. For the first time since the crisis began, she understood that bringing Owen back into the light would not be enough. If she wanted his trust, she would have to change the room that had taught him to hide. And she did not yet know if she was brave enough to do it. By morning, Greg Dalton had found the pressure point. It was not Owen. It was Maya Chen. At 8:40, an email from Human Resources landed in Maya's inbox. "Temporary administrative leave. Access suspended. Pending review of document handling during active audit." Maya read it twice, then walked straight to Claire's office. "I followed your request," she said. Claire took the phone and read the message. Greg had not accused Maya of changing data. He had done something cleaner. He had accused her of giving sensitive model records to an unauthorized individual. Owen Carter. Legal confirmed the review had been opened under Operations Risk Protocol, after Greg submitted a security concern the night before. Claire found Owen 20 minutes later in the 3rd-floor supply room. He was replacing batteries in emergency flashlights and writing expiration dates on a label sheet. Owen looked from one face to the other. "What did he do?" Maya swallowed. "I have been suspended." The label pen stopped moving. Claire said, "Administrative leave." Maya gave a bitter laugh. "That is what companies call it when they want the hallway to know before the truth does." Owen put the pen down. "What is the reason?" "Improper document distribution," Claire said. Owen looked at Maya. She did not distribute anything. "I gave you the version comparison," Maya said, "after legal released it. They are saying I used the audit to pass records to you." Owen turned toward the shelves. For a moment, he stared at the rows of gloves, toner cartridges, and floor pads. Then he reached into a lower bin and pulled out a stack of folded printouts. Alert summaries, old dashboard exports, a partial shift schedule, all marked with his small handwriting. "These did not come from Maya," he said. "Owen. They came from recycling bins outside review rooms. Misprints. Old packets. No client names. No login. What are you doing? Correcting the record. Think before you say anything else. I have been doing that for years. The door opened behind them. Greg stood there with 2 security officers and a woman from legal. Well, Greg said softly. That is helpful. Claire turned on him. You followed us? I responded to a documented security concern. Greg looked at the stack in Owen's hand. And now we have confirmation. Owen placed the printouts on the supply room table, aligning the corners out of habit. Confirmation of what? That you collected internal records outside approved channels. Discarded records. Internal records. Sanitized records. Not yours. Greg nodded to the legal woman. Please note that Mr. Carter has admitted possession of operational material obtained from disposal areas. Maya's eyes filled. He is only saying that because of me. Owen turned to her. No. I am saying it because it is true. Claire heard the danger in that calm. The truth could still be arranged to look like guilt. Greg's voice stayed pleasant. Mr. Carter, were you asked by Miss Chen to collect those records? No. Were you directed by any authorized technical lead? No. Were you aware those documents related to an active incident review? Yes. Greg let the answer sit. Claire said, those pages helped identify the model discrepancy. Greg looked at her, and that discrepancy is now contaminated by chain of custody concerns. Maya stepped forward. That is absurd. It is governance, Greg said. Owen gave a small breath. There is that word again. Greg moved closer. You seem to believe intelligence excuses boundaries. No, Owen said. I believe boundaries become suspicious when they only appear after someone finds the right question. Maya moved toward the table. Put this on me, she said. I brought him into the review. Owen answered at once. No, you cannot take this. I am not taking it. It is mine. Claire understood. Owen was building a wall between Maya and Greg, with himself as the material. Greg understood it too. That is generous, he said, but it does not resolve the access issue. Owen looked at Claire. There was no accusation in his face, only a decision. I resign. Maya said no. Claire spoke at the same time. Owen, wait. He removed his plastic identification badge and placed it beside the printouts. If I am not an employee, I cannot continue to create an access concern. Maya followed an authorized audit request. She should return to work. Greg gave a soft laugh. That is not how this works. It is how you wanted it to work, Owen said. You wanted the warning separated from the company. Now it is. Claire picked up the badge before Greg could. You do not have to do this. I know. Then do not. If I stay, he uses me to reach her. If I leave, he has to attack the evidence instead of the person who helped preserve it. That still lets him set the terms. No, Owen said. It chooses the cost. Maya wiped her cheek. I am sorry. Owen shook his head. You did what engineers are supposed to do. You looked. He turned to Claire. Do not let them punish her for that. Then he emptied his locker in less than 5 minutes. A spare shirt. A buspas. A paper lunch bag. He left the gray uniform jacket folded on the bench. At the door, he paused once. Not to look at Greg. Not to look at legal. To look at the shelves he had labeled the week before. Everything in its place. Except him. Then he left. By noon, the hallway story had changed. Some employees said Owen had been caught with confidential papers. Some said Maya had leaked files to him. Some said Claire had brought in an old friend and lost control of the audit. Greg did not correct any of it. A rumor was most useful when everyone could add their own fear to it. That evening, Claire returned to the supply room. His labels remained on every shelf. Batteries, gloves, emergency wipes, printer cartridges, old forms. Then she saw the black notebook wedged behind a stack of replacement floor pads. She reached for it carefully. The pages were crowded with equations, timelines, alert fragments, and notes written in a controlled hand. No passwords. No copied client names. No secret files. Only reconstruction. A mind. Rebuilding a crime from the shadows left behind. Near the middle, one sentence had been underlined twice. Not everyone who takes the long way around is lost. Claire sat on the supply room bench. For the first time all day, she did not feel like a chief executive officer. She felt like someone who had been handed a map after letting the guide walk away. Claire stayed in the supply room long after everyone else had gone. The black notebook lay open on her knees. Around her, Owen's labels faced outward from every shelf. Everything had been given a place by the man the company had just pushed out. Owen had rebuilt the incident by hand. Not from passwords, not from secret files, from printed scraps, hallway screens, misprints, and the habit of noticing what others threw away. Near the back, Claire found a page marked with 3 words: Maya's terminal pattern. Below it, Owen had written about Maya's sticky left shift key. Real exports from her terminal showed a tiny delay whenever capital letters appeared after certain symbols. Not a crash, just a small hardware limp. On the next page, he had drawn 2 columns: true machine rhythm, copied machine rhythm. At the bottom, one sentence was circled: if someone uses her terminal as a mask, the mask will forget the limp. At 7 in the evening, Martin Vale called. Claire, legal just received an amended incident packet from operations. What packet? Greg says it proves Owen Carter accessed a secured model archive from Maya Chen's terminal after hours. Claire stood. When? Last night. 11:36 in the evening. That is impossible. I hope you can prove that. Before she reached her office, the story had leaked. A financial blog carried a headline about a troubled former model reviewer, now working as a janitor, under review for possible interference in a trading system failure. No client names. No direct accusation. Just enough poison to spread. In the emergency legal room, Greg waited with legal counsel, Martin, 2 board members on video, and Maya at the far end of the table. The new packet was on the screen. A login record showed Maya's terminal identification, a model archive request, a file export, a timestamp from 11:36 in the evening. Greg spoke calmly. The evidence is unfortunate, but it clarifies the situation. We now have reason to believe Mr. Carter used Miss Chen's workstation, or persuaded her to access restricted material for him. Maya stood. That is a lie. I was not in the building at 11:36. Greg nodded, which makes the access more concerning. Claire opened Owen's notebook and compared the command line with the pattern he had described. In Maya's verified exports, the input lag appeared after the left shift command. In Greg's packet, the sequence was too clean, too perfect. The mask had forgotten the limp. Claire looked at legal. Freeze this packet. No one distributes it. Greg's expression hardened. Claire, with respect, this has already gone to the board. Then freeze the board. Martin leaned toward his camera. Can you challenge the log? Yes, Greg said. On what basis? Claire turned the notebook around. On the basis that it is fake. The room changed. Not loudly, but everyone understood the word could not be taken back. Greg's voice dropped. That is an extraordinary accusation. So is framing a suspended engineer and a former employee. Legal counsel raised both hands. If we are alleging falsified audit records, we need external counsel immediately. Greg replied before Claire could. Or we need to accept that an emotionally involved chief executive officer is defending a man she knew in college. Claire understood then that proving the log false in a private room would not be enough. Greg would call it loyalty, guilt, and another uncontrolled story. She closed the notebook. I am going to find Owen. Greg gave a quiet laugh. The janitor resigned. His name is Owen Carter, and he is not authorized to participate. Claire faced him. Neither is a forged audit log. Yet here we are. She left before legal could stop her. It took 40 minutes to find him. Claire found him at the public library, 3 blocks from the river, sitting at a computer with a stack of job listings beside him. He looked up when she approached. You should not be here, he said. I need your help. No. The answer came too fast. You have not heard what happened. I can guess. Greg produced an audit log showing access from Maya's terminal at 11:36 last night. Owen's eyes changed. Of course he did. You wrote about her keyboard pattern. I noticed it during the printed exports. Then you can prove the log is false. Owen looked at the job listings. No. The pattern can show the log is inconsistent. People prove what they are willing to stand behind. Claire sat across from him. I am willing now. He studied her. Privately? No. I called the packet fake in front of legal and the board. Owen blinked once. That was unwise. Yes. Good. Then Owen looked back at the computer. But I will not come back to be rescued. That is not what I am asking. It usually is. I want you in the room as an independent, analytical witness. He shook his head. No closed room. No edited minutes. If the board saw the accusation, the board sees the correction. If Maya was marked in the building, her name is cleared in the building. And if clients were given a cleaner model than the one that ran live, they hear that too. You are asking me to open a wound in front of everyone. No, Owen said. I am asking you to stop calling the wound a bruise. What if it cost me the company? She asked. Owen looked at her without softness and without cruelty. Then at least you will know what it was worth. Claire took out her phone and called Martin. Schedule a full emergency board session for 9 in the morning, she said. Legal present, compliance present, engineering present, Maya present, Greg present, and Owen Carter present as an independent witness. Martin was silent. Claire, this could become public. It already is. She ended the call. Owen watched her. I have one condition, she said. He waited. You do not disappear before the truth is finished. Something in his face shifted. Not trust. Not yet. But a door not fully closed. I can do that, he said. The next morning, Claire walked into the boardroom with Owen's notebook in one hand and the unread legal statement in the other. Greg was already waiting. So was the fake log. So was everyone who had looked away when the janitor first entered the room. This time, Claire did not sit at the head of the table. She stood beside the empty chair reserved for Owen. Then she looked through the glass wall and said, Bring him in. At 9 in the morning, the boardroom was full. Board members sat along the table with legal counsel on one side and compliance on the other. 2 senior engineers stood near the wall screen. Maya Chen sat with no laptop because her access was still locked. Greg Dalton sat opposite Claire, calm and ready. Greg looked at it and smiled. Are we waiting for a former employee? Claire placed Owen's notebook on the table. We are waiting for the person your report accused. The glass door opened. Owen Carter entered in a plain blue shirt, not a uniform. He carried only a folder Claire had given him outside. No mop cart, no badge, no apology for taking up space. Owen is here as an independent analytical witness, she said. This session is being recorded. The minutes will not be edited without legal review. Greg leaned back. That is highly irregular. So is the fake log. Claire nodded to Maya. Show the packet operations submitted last night. The screen showed Maya's terminal identification, a model archive request, a file export, a timestamp from 11:36 in the evening. This record shows unauthorized access from Miss Chen's workstation after hours. The most reasonable explanation is that Mr. Carter used her terminal, or that she accessed material for him. Owen looked at the screen. That is one explanation. Greg turned. And yours? Owen stepped to the wall screen. Mine begins with the machine. He pointed to the first command line. Maya's keyboard has a sticky left shift key. Real exports from her terminal show a delay after certain capital commands. The delay is small, but consistent. Maya brought up 3 old exports. Each one showed the same tiny hardware lag. Then she brought up Greg's packet. The command sequence was clean. Too clean. Owen said, If this log came from Maya's terminal, it should have the limp. Martin Vale leaned forward. And it does not. No, Owen said. It does not. A hardware delay is not proof of forgery. No, Owen said. It proves the packet is not what it claims to be. The rest explains why someone needed it. The incident timeline appeared. 11:17, soft warning. 11:19, warning cleared. 11:23, exposure failure. 11:24, shutdown command made the risk worse. The warning did not fail. It was made irrelevant. The model acted on a stale risk state because an operations override suppressed the reason code. Greg said, That is speculation. Maya opened the wide export from the print packet. At the far edge, the masked field appeared. OPS-17. Owen said, This is an operations terminal, not engineering, not Maya. Greg spread his hands. Operations has many users. Yes, Owen said. That is why we look at what happened after the terminal acted. Maya brought up the model version comparison. Live operating model. Board reporting model. The identifiers appeared at the bottom. K49. K4B. 1 character apart. Owen said. After the temporary overrides, the live model showed higher risk than the board packet. The board was not seeing the same risk picture the company was running. Greg stood. That is a governance display issue. Owen turned toward him. Then why did the whiteboard in the crisis room use the board reporting version? Maya clicked to the photograph from the first day. The circled line was there. So was the tiny version code written beside the assumptions. K4B. Owen had not only corrected a broken equation, he had corrected the version of reality Greg had been selling upstairs. Claire faced the board. The whiteboard Greg's team used during the crisis matched the cleaner board model, not the live operating model. That is why the failsafe behaved as if the warning was noise. That is why client exposure moved the wrong way. And that is why Owen's correction worked. Greg's face had lost color. This is being twisted. Claire looked at him. No, it is being unmasked. Legal counsel spoke carefully. Greg, who approved the temporary overrides? Greg did not answer. Martin asked, who sent the amended log last night? Greg looked toward the screen, then toward the door. Owen did not move. Claire picked up the legal statement she had refused to read and tore it once down the middle. I owe this room the truth, she said, and I owe Owen Carter an apology. I tried to make his warning manageable. Greg tried to make it criminal. Both were wrong. Claire turned to Owen. You were not lucky. You were not a disruption. You were the first person in this company willing to question the line everyone else had stopped questioning. Martin closed his folder. Greg Dalton is relieved of operational authority effective immediately. Legal will preserve all records for external investigation. Miss Chen's access is restored pending review, with no disciplinary mark. Greg whispered, You cannot do this. Claire answered, I should have done it sooner. Through the glass wall, employees had gathered outside the boardroom. They could not hear every word, but they saw enough. They saw Greg escorted out. They saw Maya return to the table. They saw Claire step aside so Owen could stand before the board, not behind her, not beneath anyone. And for the second time in that company, a room full of experts fell silent because Owen Carter had shown them what they had refused to see. 3 days later, Bennett Meridian sent a corrected report to every affected client. No polished excuse. No hidden paragraph. The report named the false model version, the suppressed alert, the forged log, and the person who had first identified the structural flaw. Owen Carter. Maya's access was restored that morning. Her file was cleared. Greg Dalton's case moved to external investigators, along with every operations override. Claire did not announce the change from the head of the boardroom. She went to the third-floor training room and waited beside a clean whiteboard. Owen arrived with his black notebook under one arm. The room was full. Engineers sat beside operations clerks. Night staff sat beside analysts. A facilities supervisor stood near the back, still holding a work order tablet. Claire introduced him simply. This is Owen Carter. He saw what we stopped questioning. Then she stepped aside. Owen looked at the whiteboard. No flashing screens. No alarms. No one telling him to leave. He opened the notebook to the underlined sentence. Not everyone who takes the long way around is lost. Then he closed it. Today, he said, we start with the line everyone trusts too much. Maya smiled first. In the hallway, the old supply closet still carried Owen's labels. Batteries, gloves, emergency wipes, printer cartridges, everything in its place, except the mop cart was gone. Weeks later, a new sign appeared across the company. Pattern review sessions, open to all departments. The first person to attend without an invitation was a night security guard who had noticed a strange access rhythm after midnight. Owen listened to him carefully. No one laughed. And when the room fell silent this time, it was not because a janitor had shocked them. It was because, at last, they were learning to hear him.